Welcome to the SCORE Business Showcase. We have another fantastic business with us this day. And Renata, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself? Tell us about Lovely Cakes and what does your business actually do?
Hi there. Yeah, I'm the owner of Lovely Cakes, been in business for 15 years. We make custom cakes for weddings, all celebrations. We also make cupcakes and cake pops. And we really specialize in doing one-of-a-kind designs. A lot of things there are sculpted cakes that don't look like cakes, um, sculpted figurines. So very customized, and we're very proud of our flavors because we get a lot. The comment that we get all the time is that a lot of cakes look good but don't taste good. So we say here that our mantra, even though we want the cakes to look good, is taste before beauty. So it's still food, still has to taste good. So we bake everything from scratch here in our kitchen before we start building the designs.
I think that's great. They're not only lovely and beautiful to look at, but they taste great too. That's a great combination. So Renata, tell me how you decided to get into this industry, this field that you're in.
It wasn't like pre-thought about it. I didn't think about it. I started making cakes for my kids when I became a stay-at-home mom. My oldest son is 17 now, so his cake was the first cake I made. And then I started making cakes for my nieces and nephews and my other children. And next thing I knew, people wanted to buy the cakes. And I said, well, maybe I can do that from home, while the kids are sleeping. In the end, I was working godly night hours to get this stuff done. Things grew quickly, more than I ever expected. And we refinished our whole garage to do like a cake studio. And before I knew, I needed kitchen, like a commercial kitchen space. So I started looking into rent a kitchen space. The orders were growing, and we went into weddings. And finally, after 10 years of doing things in that way, we were able to get our own building and build our own kitchen here in Stratford. So it's been a wild ride, in one that I didn't plan for, but I love it.
Now that sounds like some challenges. So what were some other challenges that you faced and that you actually overcame?
The biggest challenge was that finding the kitchen space, first to rent and then a kitchen space for our own. We ended up deciding to build our own kitchen. And now the days that we are not in the kitchen, because we have a kitchen and a decorating room, we actually rent kitchen to other food entrepreneurs. So that was my way around to find a way to make it work. So I would have the space and share with other people, share the cost as well. And this idea kind of became from my own struggles. I was like, if I'm having a hard time finding a kitchen, I imagine other people are having a hard time as well. And that's how the solution came. But the whole process took a long time to get to the point where I could buy all the equipment and do the construction to build it.
Wow. So it sounds like there were, challenges at each step of the way, growing as you grew your business. You went through one set of challenges and then you went through, the next set of challenges. So what would you say you've learned by becoming a business owner?
Basically what you said, yeah, there were challenges, but taking each step at a time. Things can get overwhelming, and I try to do at least one little thing towards the goal each day. So in the process of buying the building to then build the kitchen, we had to go through the whole SBA process, and it's very daunting to even look at the applications. Like, where do I even start? So I would start to do, one little thing at a time, to do one email, read one article about, or, just one little step at a time. The way I did it, it grew organically, and it took a long time. I know that a lot of business can wait 10 years for this growth, but it was a way that it worked for me. At the time, my kids were little, and that was really the priority. Now the business took a bigger role, and I'm glad that once we made the step, we were able to grow quickly to absorb the cost.
Now, you said you've been in business now 15 years, correct?
Yes.
Now, in that period of time, you've had many goals. Any particular goals that you particularly set out to do that you accomplished? And what are you set out to do now?
So I have two goals that I'm very proud to have achieved. I've always done like in the beginning of the year, the list of things that I want to do, the vision board. I'm all for that kind of stuff. So for the longest time, the goal was to have the commercial space, which I now do. And one of the other goals was to participate in a competition on TV. And that always happened, also happened. So those are two great big boxes for me. The goals for the future is to be able to grow and hire more people.
Very good.
Mary Ann, you're muted, so I can't hear you.
What advice would you give to a new business owner, sharing what you've learned?
The advice would be to actually take those steps, even if it's one tiny step each day. I remember when I was in the process of, getting my LLC and then getting the SBA, I was attending a lot of seminars, a lot of them from SCORE. And I would meet a lot of people that would go to these, but they never took the action. Like they got the information, but they never did anything about it. And actually, when I had the grand opening for my commercial space, there was one of the ladies that I had met at one of the SCORE seminars. She wanted to open a chocolate store. And she said, well, you actually going to do this? I'm like, yeah, I'm actually doing this. So 2 years later, when I actually did it, she came to the grand opening and she's like, oh my God, I can't believe you did it. I was like, yeah, how about you? She goes, no. I said, like, nothing? She goes, no, it was just a dream. I was like, well, it doesn't have to be. It takes a long time, but you can do one little step at a time. So I think a lot of people get overwhelmed by the process. So my advice would be that just take one little step.
And I saw on your website you were on Cake Wars. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience there?
So it was great being on Cake Wars. I always wanted to be on a cake competition since I started baking cakes. And it came at perfect time because the show aired right after I got my commercial space. So when I needed the exposure, the show aired like 2 months after the kitchen was completed. And that has brought us business to this day. I mean, the first time the show aired was 2017. And I've been on 2 more shows after that. But that first show still brings, clients to this day. For me, being on the show, it was amazing. It was something I always wanted to do, being able to win, doing something that I love so much and that I'm self-taught. It was a big accomplishment for me.
So when you were talking about the show and everything, what would you say is something that you actually learned about yourself through this process?
The process of being on the show, the first thing that I learned, the mindset that I went with wasn't that I was not competing with the other competitors on the show. I was competing with myself. So I went with the mindset like win or lose, I just want to produce something that I'm proud of. And I was able to accomplish that. I also learned that I love to compete. I hadn't ever competed on anything before. I didn't play sports as a kid. So I never had that experience of like winning. So I totally got hooked. It was really good.
Now, when it comes to SCORE, how were they able to help you in your process or in your business?
So SCORE, I'm not even exaggerating, has a huge place in my heart. You guys have helped me so much. So when I was earlier in the process of getting the business legal, LLCs, and then applying for the SBA and all of that, I worked with my mentor all the time. And throughout that process, he would give me a lot of homework, number stuff to really think about it. When you're doing the SBA, you have to do a lot of projections, and it's really hard to do all of that. At one point, I remember coming to the meeting and saying, I'm done. I can't move. I can't go any longer. And he totally changed my mind. And we were so prepared that when I went to apply for the SBA loan, I went to 3 banks. I was so scared. I was like, nobody's going to give me money. I'm a tiny little business. There's no way. And what happened is that all three banks said, I've never seen anybody this prepared. Every single paper they asked for, I had it. And all of three of them approved me. So in the end, I was shopping around to see who was going to give me like a better rate and a better deal. And that really was thanks to my score member, my score mentor at the time, because he helped me a lot through the process.
Well, that sounds great. It sounds like there's a lot of learning and growing as you go, and your business started getting, bigger. You started getting more requests. As you do continue to learn and grow, does it, how does that work for you? Like, what's your process of going through that? What would you recommend to others?
So that is a process that I'm still learning myself. It's kind of hard. I mean, not counting this year because of COVID, things have been really weird. But it's kind of like I look at it, the growth as steps, and you grow, and we're working a lot of hours, but it's like, okay, it's not enough to hire one more person. So then you right on the edge, like, do I hire one more person and not have enough orders, or do I not? So that transition from each step that you grow, it's really hard, because the more work that I have, that I started to realize that I cannot do it by myself. Like, I'm still to the point that I do all the accounting and QuickBooks and the invoices. I was like, okay, I can't handle this by myself anymore. So now I have to look for an alternative for that. So that transition of each step, things that you let go out of your hands to then hire somebody else and outsource that is kind of hard. And I don't think there's a manual for that. You just kind of like trial and error, and you see if it works. And we were ready to do that. And now with COVID, this year has been totally out of the norm. Really hard to predict even what's going to happen next year. So that is a really hard situation.
Now, Renata, I know you do a lot of cooking or
Yeah.
making these cakes, but where do you spend most of your time? Do you spend it in the kitchen or the office?
So my week is divided by Monday and Tuesday in the office, and then Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday with the cake. I'm still totally hands-on when it comes to the decorating part of the cake. I have now delegated the baking and the filling, all of that. But it's hard. It's hard to come to that point when you're not involved in even one process anymore.
So how is it that you go about, because you are doing multiple things, right? How is it that you go about like asking for help and getting help?
You mean like from people that work with us, or from other
Well, in any way to
institutions?
help run your business, and all of the different things that you were talking about, because you're very skilled at, making the cakes, and you're creative and you do them custom. I can imagine, that is really something that you're excited about. But then there's the business side of the business as well. So what do you think like a good way would be to, get help for the things that maybe that's not someone's skill set and they need to learn more about that?
Yeah, I get all the help that I can get from SCORE, and doing all kinds of workshops. There's so much information there, and there's so many resources of people that can help, and 101 free meetings with accountants. They're gonna, help you how to do certain things, or marketing specialists. I've taken advantage of all these resources that SCORES and other institutions like SCORES have it. And then I just ask people, I ask friends. When I have a problem, everybody knows about it, because I kind of put it out there, and usually the solution kind of comes. You always know somebody that knows somebody that kind of know the answer. So I feel like a lot of people don't want to talk about it. I really talk about it. And then the answer usually comes back to me that way.
Now, question I have for you, Renata, is what sets you apart from your competition?
Like I said in the beginning, I think one is our flavors, and the way that we still do everything from scratch is very time consuming, which makes makes it very costly, but I still believe that it's the right way to do. a lot of people are cutting corners because it takes so much time and money to do things from scratch nowadays. And aside from that, I think our designs and the stuff that we can do, that it's hand sculpted. And I feel like we're one of the only ones in the area that can do like a sculpted cake. So cakes that look like something else. We've done like so many things, so many shapes of cakes. I think people are like, oh my God, is that really a cake? You know, that kind of stuff.
And what is your personal favorite?
My personal favorite still, I would say it's the cake that I made on Cake Wars when we competed the first time. It was the Valentine's Day episode. And it was a Cupid holding boxes of Valentine's cards and chocolates and things. It was a cake that was kind of like, looking at it, it was gravity defying. So it had a nice element to it. And people don't realize when we make cakes like that, it has a whole metal structure that goes inside. So that's another thing. Like, it's one thing to build it, and then you have to make sure it's not going to fall over. And then you have to transport it, which is nerve-wracking to transport really big cakes. You never know how bumpy the roads are until you have a cake in the car.
A lot of things to learn and navigate, right? With all the different challenges. Have you had to adjust with different situations considering what's going on today?
So with COVID, you're talking about, we had to do huge adjustments this year. Our goal every year has always been to increase the amount of wedding cakes that we have, just because the cakes are bigger and it's better for the business. But we still do a lot of celebration cakes. And this year, the fact that we still have so many customers that order celebration cake saved us, because if we were just a wedding cake only business, we would be completely closed. But instead, we were not closed for a single week. We had orders the whole time. We have customers that order from us every year for their kids' birthdays. And what we tried to do to adjust was throughout the holidays when people were quarantined. So we had Mother's Day, we had Easter, we had Father's Day. We created like mini cakes and cake pops, little things. So since people were celebrating with smaller gatherings at home, we started making smaller things, which is something that we usually don't do it. It was able to keep, to keep the doors open and the lights on. So slowly celebration started to get a little bigger. We went into phase 3. We were really excited. And now we kind of took a step back to phase 2. And right away we saw, cancellations. We saw people calling to get their cakes smaller. So we're probably going to have to make adjustments again to get through the winter and go back to doing smaller things that people can just have it at home.
Now, as a business owner, have you found it valuable to do any partnerships with other businesses?
We don't have any partnerships, I don't think, with other business. We have a lot of vendors that we recommend each other and that we work with in the wedding industry. There's a great group of vendors here in Fairfield County that we all know each other. So florists, DJs, planners, and it kind of goes around. We keep seeing each other at events. I miss them because I haven't seen them at all this year, but it's a great group of people that really became friends. And I'm hoping that the situation is going to get better for all of them.
Mhm.
How far away have you traveled to? What is your area that you cover?
So we kind of cover all Connecticut. We go to New York, New Jersey once in a while, but the furthest delivery that we had was all the way to Ohio. So that was a far one. There's a planner that we work with a lot in New York, and she was doing an event for LeBron James at his house. And she asked me, I love your cakes. I don't know any vendors over there in Ohio. Would you bring it there? It wasn't just one cake. It was like 8 cakes and cupcakes. It was for his daughter's first birthday. And I said, LeBron James? Yeah, I'll drive to Ohio. So we did that. I drove with my husband, and all the cakes made it, no damage. Everything worked out. But that was a long delivery.
So you never know who you're going to meet, right? It's kind of exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's worth it.
Now, do you are you involved with any memberships like chambers of commerce, anything, things of that nature?
Not chambers. So I have my mentor from SCORE, and I also work with the WBDC. So I was a client of theirs for a long time, and I was able to give it back and do some workshops as I was a speaker about people learning about food business and stuff like that. So it's been all the way around. I'm still a client and a volunteer. So SCORE and WBDC are the two organizations that I work with.
I enjoy the fact that you're giving back and helping other people, right? Who are starting out. What have you learned from doing that? You know, talking to people and now you being on the other side, helping them. I mean, that must be rewarding.
It is very rewarding. It is. And like I said, this whole process of getting the SBA loan, it's something people they're so afraid of, even starting the process, and being able to tell them all the steps and everything that I've learned. Also dealing with the opening of the kitchen, health department, buying equipment, and all of that. It's been great to pass on that information because it took me a long time to acquire. I am a person that once I go into something, I do a lot of studying. So for example, before I opened the kitchen, I wrote every book the health department has ever put out there. I knew all the regulations, what I could do, what I couldn't do, what kind of equipment. The reason why I had to do that is because I actually didn't have the money to hire somebody that was going to tell me those things. So I had to learn myself to see what I could do, what kind of equipment I could get. And the same thing when it was time to design the kitchen. I couldn't, afford an architect. So I drew my own plan. So I had to know all the regulation to know that the plan that I would put forward would be approved. And people get overwhelmed by that. They think, oh, I don't have all this budget to hire an architect and a consultant and a this and a that, so I can't do it. And you can still do it. If you put the time and effort, you can do it.
Now, when it comes to, you have mentioned about travel, and I think the longest place was Ohio. Was there any safeguards that you had to put in place? Was there a special freezer that you had to use?
So luckily, the time that we went was throughout the winter. So it was cold enough. So the car is pretty much a driving freezer. We couldn't turn the heat inside the car. So I had like a jacket on and the car was already refrigerated. Other than that, during, throughout the year, when we do deliveries in the summer, we don't have to have a special car or freezer or anything because we don't go far enough. So we just crank the AC in the car, and that's usually is enough to keep the cakes cool.
I always wondered about how they get the cakes to the destination. That was always something in the back of my mind. So how many people are you working with, Renata? How many are on your staff?
So right now we have, it's me and one more full-time. And then we have one part-time, and then we have two people that help us driving the cakes on the weekends.
I had a friend that used to make pound cakes, different flavors, and I was the one that volunteered as the taster. Do you have a taster for your cakes?
Well, people like to come visit us because as we level the cakes before we fill them, we also have cake scraps. So there's always like little cake scraps to try if you come during the week. But we are the ones tasting, and most of the time, unfortunately, people ask me, "Do you get tired of cake?" And I don't. I still eat cake every week. I wish I didn't, that I was better with my diet, but I still eat cake.
You said that you started baking cakes for your children, right? You started doing that, and then family and friends, you were helping with them. Are your children interested in the business or baking?
They like baking home, so we will make, cookies and brownies at home. Not the business. I don't think any of them will be taking over. My youngest daughter, for a while, she was very worried because she felt obligated. So when somebody would ask her, what do you want to be when you grow up? She goes, oh, I have to take over my mom's business. I said, you know what? You don't. Go do your own thing. But she was like, then what's going to happen to it? I'm like, I don't know, but it's fine. If it has to end, it will end. It's my story. But we still have a lot of fun around their birthday. Sometimes they'll come and I'll work on the cakes with them.
Now, is there anything that you have in mind that you wanted to share with our viewers, particularly business owners, on some of the things to look out for in business?
Wow, that's a hard one. It's so unpredictable. I have no idea what's coming next year. For a while, I was thinking that my business was going to double next year because we were going to have double the weddings, the ones from this year that got moved to next year, and then the ones from next year. Now everything got to a halt again. It's just so hard to make any predictions. At this point, I'm really just taking one step at a time, applying to all the help that I can. There's stuff out there, so keep yourself informed because there's a lot of resources and things that you can apply for.
I admire how you adjusted like your outlook, because you had said earlier that people are doing smaller gatherings now. So you're helping them with that and getting it through, even if they have to adjust their order, or they may, maybe want to order something different or add, something different to the order, but they're accommodating they're adjusting because of the changes. And it sounds like you've been really good at adapting to that. And I think that may be, do you think that's a secret to being still in business?
I think so. I think you have to, adapt as you need. It's not a business model that we would want to keep on long term because we try to be something more exclusive, more custom. If we're dealing with a lot of customers at a time, if you have an order for one big cake, or if you have 20 orders for cupcakes, it's just 20 people that you're dealing with. So it's 20 chances to make a mistake. It's 20 invoices that you have to create. It's 20 payments versus the one big cake. So I'm working longer hours now because all that office part, all that accounting part is more because we're dealing with more people. But then the revenue coming is less because the orders are smaller. So it's not something that I would want to keep doing, in the next year, hopefully. But it's something that we had to do, and that it kept our business open. I was able to keep my employee, which was something that I was very worried about. I felt like responsible, for them, for her. So the fact that we're still able to keep people working and going, even if it's a little bit less, like we're still here.
How can we get in touch with you, Renata?
So most people email us. There's also our website, which is on the screen. But most people, when they want to order a cake, they'll email us the date, the size of the cake, and usually a picture. Now that they'll just Google, and there's so many pictures available. So usually we start from there, and then we'll work with ideas and different ways that we can customize and make special for them.
And your phone number?
Yeah, phone number. People call too, but I don't know. People don't. Most of the time they email because they want to send that picture, so I can see what they're talking about. But we're here too. We'll answer the phones.
Well, we'd like to thank you very much for sharing your fine ideas and your business with us, and much success in the future. And we'd like to thank the audience too for joining us. So once again, to your success in your business.
Thank you
very much.
It was a pleasure.
Mine is.